I put a link on the video on YouTube that we post to get to a site that also has the text. And for anyone who's joining us who is new, either here today or watching on YouTube, I also put a link on last week's video and will on this week's video to a playlist that will get you up to speed on what we're learning. So it's a series of 4 of our past classes. It includes the first class we recorded, also an overview of chapters 1 to 19 that really is the heart of this, call it life plan or philosophy for change. And then 2 more videos that deal with the vocabulary and concepts of the sfirot, which are the different emotional attributes and intellectual attributes that we discuss in terms of how to engage the way our soul flows through our body. So anyone who watches those 4 videos, I think you'll feel much more at home here and be, right up with the class. But either way, welcome. Paula, good to have you. I don't know if you've figured out your microphone, but I got your email and good to see you. Good to see you in the class. And let me know. Anyone who wants to read, we'll be reading as we go through. So if you'd rather just be a listening and watching, that's fine too. So to catch us up, starting in chapter 26, we finished the 2 main meditation practices that the Tanya teaches, which is the long short path and the short long path, which you can watch the review to get the basics on those, or the basics on the first. And then the first thing it gets into is this rule of thumb that when you're doing any kabbalistic spiritual practice, oh, can anyone else not hear? Can everyone hear me?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Joey, check your volume level. It may be your volume level. Joey to turn his volume up, perhaps. So the rule of thumb is, if I approach it with joy, everything's going to go better, everything's going to be easier, and the obstacles will sort of melt away of their own. And if I approach it with the opposite of joy, which we call depression in America, right? Then everything will be difficult, and all the techniques I learned will be less effective than if I approach it with joy. So the very next section of the Tanya deals with how to approach this practice with joy and how to get anything away that may be in the way of joy. So 26, we talked about possible depression over worldly things, over spiritual things, and ways to approach that, techniques to overcome that. 27, we talked about...
Cantor, I'm sorry. Can you define like what joy consists of? For example, is it being happy? Is it being determined? Is it being confident? Like what goes into having joy?
Yeah, I think all those are part of it. And we don't mean joy in an esoteric sense.
Yeah.
In Kabbalah, joy is the inside aspect of Bina, right? But I don't want to get into that. But I just mean like joy in life. Like when you're happy, clap your hands kind of joy, right? So if I'm excited for something, if there's a birthday party, we're all happy, we go. And, if there's a problem, we overcome it. It's easy. Everybody's happy. If I'm like, I don't want to do this, now everything's a problem, right? So yeah, obviously it involves the emotion of just feeling happy, which is a human experience, and excitement, and what we call it, zerizut, temerity, like you quickly get to things. It involves confidence. And it's not even so much confidence as you don't even think about confidence. It's natural. You just go do it. You don't have to be confident because there's nothing in your way. You're happy, right? So I just mean in a very, very conventional sense, joy. Does that make sense?
Yes, thank you.
Yeah. And then, 27 was about spiritual issues. So 27 is about if I'm sad about my inner identity, right? That I'm functioning as a Bainani, as we've described. My thought, speech, and action are all exactly the way I'd like them to be. But I have these, inside, I know I have these tendencies, or my heart pops up these ideas into my mind, how to deal with that. And finally, 28, which we're finishing today, deals with this problem of what to do if you have distracting thoughts during prayer. Which for us, we have beautiful services with music and videos and sermons that are 9 minutes long and with jokes, entertainment. It may not be as big an issue for us because we really craft our services to draw a person in, which I think is great. But imagine if one was praying daily, for a long time, and Yom Kippur is like through the whole day, and Rosh Hashanah through the whole day. Certain nights you're up all night doing learning and doing penitential prayers. It's really a big thing, and it just goes on automatic. You're just now saying the words. You don't feel excitement, and suddenly, boom, all these thoughts come, and you find yourself going through the grocery list or a conversation or maybe something even more problematic. So how do we deal with that? And the advice was, A, just ignore it. Just there's some shlemiel over there trying to distract me. I'm not going to engage with them. And B, it doesn't mean that my prayer is worse. It doesn't mean I didn't pray properly because now I'm being distracted. And it's not like, in a lot of meditation classes, it's seen as, well, did you go 10 minutes without any intervening thoughts, right? And that's you get a badge, right? You've reached a level. Now can you go 20 minutes? Now can you go 45 minutes? How long can you go without an intervening thought? And if it arrives, okay, now watch it, detach from it, let it melt away, recognize the observer as the observed. But the longer I can empty my mind, the better my meditation presumably was, and I'm a more skilled meditator. The Alter Rebbe says that's a misconception. When you're praying, which is meditation as well, and we'll touch on the differences we have before, if I'm praying and my animal soul does not bother with it, is fine with it, and doesn't interfere, that doesn't mean I prayed better. That means I just did maybe my usual. The animal soul's happy. It's not threatened. It's there in its place. It knows, prayer's going to be over. It's going to be back to regular. I'm not pushing it, and it doesn't give me trouble. If I pray with more energy and more commitment, now what does the animal soul do? Like our two wrestlers, the animal soul says, uh-oh, today's Smolash really means it. Look, he's digging deeper. He's pushing harder. He's praying with real vigor. I better get out of my lazy chair, and I better start fighting back. And so now these thoughts start popping up. And Alter Rebbe says, when you have an intervening thought there, you should actually be happy and joyful because, ding, I got the feedback. I'm actually pushing myself harder than I usually do. I'm doing a better job. Okay, ignore the thought. And the technique is not to observe the thought or to struggle with the thought. The technique is just weiter, go on, weiter. So open up, Shema Yisrael, our Temple Israel prayer book, go back to the word you were on. What does the word mean? Re-engage with that intention you had and just keep going, right? That's the technique. And do it with joy because, yay, the intervening thought says, I was praying great today, right? Any questions on that 28? That's where we're holding right now.
Yeah, I have a big problem with this. Since we started studying this, I never thought that my mind wandered, but now my mind seems to be wandering a lot more and thinking about my mind wandering. So every morning when I say my prayers, I'm thinking, oh, Smolash was saying I should have done this, or I should have, Smolash is doing this. So since we started studying this, I'm thinking more and more about my mind wandering.
Never should have left it alone, right? Never should have asked the question, does your mind wander? Now I'm thinking, does my mind wander? And now that's my mind wandering already.
And I'm really noticing a lot more that my mind is wandering.
Yeah. So
Tanner just said that's a good thing.
I don't look at it as a good thing. I'm thinking about the virus. I'm thinking about everything that's going on in my world when I'm saying my prayers. And
that's your animal soul fighting.
Yeah. So Rick, I hear what you're saying. Sometimes when you ask the question, now you're thinking about, is my mind wandering, and that triggers it. I wouldn't give that personally. I wouldn't give that issue much weight. I think it'll just settle down of its own accord. I think it's natural when you start looking at something, asking a question, it acts up a little. Just give it a week or two, and you'll be back to your regular prayers. And then if you have a real weighty intervening thought that's really intruding, now let's use this technique. But I think it's just a phase is my sense. Is that possible?
Going through a phase, okay.
Okay. I think I hear what you're saying, but I'm not gonna. Let's give that a week or two and then come back to me. Call me if that still is troubling you.
You got it. Okay.
Take 2 Tylenol and call them in the morning.
Amen. Doctor's orders.
And just, but yeah, just go on. Like, use the same technique. If you find yourself, you're thinking, is my mind wandering? Now it's wandering. Okay, now go back to what the prayer was on. And as we know through neuroplasticity, every time you bring your mind back, you reinforce and you're getting yourself deeper into prayer. So it still is productive, right? Even though it's maybe annoying. 380. והוא כמשל אדם המתפלל בכוונה ועומד לנגדו ערל רשע ומשיח מדבר עמו כדי לבלבלו. Go ahead, Cindy.
This is, to use an example, like a person who is praying with devotion. While facing him, there stands a wicked heathen who chats and speaks to him in order to confuse him.
So for those watching, it's a little colorful language, perhaps for a 21st century text. But keep in mind, back in the day, it was, one was living in a little town with very little protection from any authorities. And I can speak from experience in my family. Life in Poland was common for, non-Jews to kind of ridicule Jews or spit on Jews. It was out in the open, not like we live our life today, pretty much secure to practice our religion. And even in North America, we see, little bits of things of, the last year of attacks in the Jewish community in New York, where people just, punch a Jew from behind just because they obviously look like they're dressed as a Jew. So, it's a phenomenon that exists, and he's dealing with it. You're standing there. I'm in the train station praying, and some person comes by and tries to tease me or distract me. I'm sure it was much more common then. What do you do?
Hunter, I have a question on 379.
Yes.
The last sentence, except that the godly soul is clothed within the animal soul.
Correct.
So the godly soul has to fight just to open up out of not just wrestling, but almost breaking out and then wrestling. I'm not understanding the conflict here.
Yeah, it's the fact that the godly soul is clothed in the animal soul means that for any physical activity, the godly soul has to get the cooperation of the animal soul, because the energy of my mouth that's speaking now is not the godly soul. Even though presumably we're talking Torah, and hopefully I'm doing this not for self-aggrandizement, and at my level, this is now my divine soul that's functioning. That, let's assume that's the case, right? Although it's subtle, but it's still not the divine soul that's speaking. The divine soul is saying to the animal soul, "Okay, now get the mouth to say this stuff," right? And it's the animal soul that actually connects to the physical body, and the physical brain, and the physical hands. So anytime the divine soul is actually doing a mitzvah or speaking, or even physically thinking with the brain, it's doing it through the medium of the animal soul, and it needs its cooperation. So yeah, that's involved in the struggle. But when it comes to the struggle, it's really one soul versus the other, and it's not. He's not making the point about.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's the point. So we want to keep that in mind. Our divine soul actually has to function through the medium of the animal soul to express physically. שזאת עצמו עצתו בוודאי, שלא להשיב לו מיתו ועד רע לעשות עצמו כחרש לא ישמע. Go ahead, Dan.
Surely the best advice in this case would be to answer him neither good nor evil, but rather to act as though he were deaf without hearing.
And so here, I don't want to get into a conversation with Joe Stranger about, how do you say this about Jews, and who do you think you are, and why, and don't you see what I'm trying to accomplish? I'm praying, I'm trying to help you as well. Just some person's trying to get me off my game, and don't pay attention, right? That's probably Jews then had more experience dealing with, negative attitudes around them in society, and they knew very well that the path of just saying nothing, ignoring it is usually the less problematic thing. לקיים מה שכתוב על טעם כתיר באיוולתו, כאן תשווה לו גם אתה. That's Rick, please. You want to unmute yourself, please. Oh.
There you go. Okay.
Rick, there you
Sorry.
go.
And to comply with the verse, answer not a fool according to his folly, lest you too become like him.
Right? And so this is Proverbs, right? Don't, if someone's just being a doofus or whatever, don't start to argue with them. You're inevitably going to get drawn down to their level, and who knows, you may get into a shouting match and now be expressing anger, and now you know where you are. You're in Russia land, so just
Russia land.
Just let it pass.
Russia land.
We know Russia land, right? It's the amusement park we've been in for a long time. Al yashiv uma v'shum ta'ana umaneh neged hamachashava zera. Noreen, please.
Just as in the analogy of the heathen who disturbs one during prayer, so too, when foreign thoughts enter one's mind while praying, he should answer nothing at all, nor should he engage in argument against the foreign thought. That is, he should not occupy himself with mental discussions on the best strategy for countering the foreign thought.
So same thing. Just like you're not going to get into a big debate with a stranger who's really just obviously trying to tease or annoy you. Also, you shouldn't get into the whole thing with this foreign thought. Is somebody else hearing like a thing, or is that just my computer?
Yes.
Yeah, I hear it.
Some noise in the background.
Maybe you should mute everyone and we can unmute when we speak.
Yeah, can we do that? Can everyone mute? Just let's see where that's coming from. Yeah. So let's all mute ourselves. Might be from my computer. Yeah, let's test that out. And Danelle, maybe you can edit this section out so people don't have to sit through it if they're watching online. Now here, let me mute the few people that are still not muted. Pardon me for intruding here. Let's see if it's my computer or if it's, yeah, I think I found it. Okay, good. So let's just unmute yourselves when you're reading. I think that'll be easier. Janelle, let's start back again here with the video. Right, so this foreign thought is like that. We pay it no mind, we don't pay attention, we don't argue, we don't struggle. And now he gives us another visual for why it is that we don't want to struggle with a foreign thought. We're back to our wrestlers. Ki hamitabek im menuval mitnavel gamken. And we're at, Susan, I don't know if you'd like to read. Yeah, your camera's pointed at the ceiling, so I'm not sure. Hold on 1 minute. Do you have the text, Susan? Okay, I can't hear you. I'm going to assume that we'll come back to you if you can, and just okay, good. Okay, Sue Ellen, why don't you go ahead?
For he who wrestles with a filthy person is bound to become soiled himself.
Right, so that's the thing. If there's a person who's, in the mud and wrestling and trying to bring people down and trying to grab you, okay, if I go and I decide to engage and wrestle, now I'm going to become muddy. I might beat them. I might hold them down. I might prevail, but I'm going to come away, covered in the same muck that they're in. Right, so it's just that kind of situation. You want to just stay away. You don't want to necessarily engage with that foreign thought. We're at Linda, please. You want to unmute, Linda.
Okay, now I'm off mute. I don't have the material in front of me, so I can't read it.
Okay, so if you'd like, Maya can send you. Maxine, if you'll go, please.
Instead, he should pretend not to know nor hear the foreign thoughts that occurred to him, should dismiss them from his mind.
And one more line, V'yosif omet bekoach kavanato. Go ahead, Maxine.
And strengthen still more the power of his concentration.
Okay, and Carolyn, you'll be next. So this is the this is the technique, right? Pay no attention. And I often say, and I think this is key because a lot of Jewish people that are seeking a spiritual pathway do wind up taking on the meditation practices that come out from the East. And often, even when something is taught as Jewish meditation, if you look at where the practice came from or where the person originally learned, maybe through a teacher who learned from another teacher, often it also comes from the East. And so far, I'll say, I can't speak that this is 100% all the time everywhere, but in my experience over the past 5 years of reading and looking and kind of watching what's going on and doing my own practice, every time that I found a Jewish meditation that is teaching to clear the mind and keep it clear, and if a thought intrudes, to observe the thought as if I'm sitting by a river watching and let the thought dissipate, so to speak, and recognize the observer as the observed, and I'm one with the thought and eventually transcends it, it always traces back to some version of an Eastern meditation, so far without exception. So, if you're taking what I'm going to call the traditional Jewish meditative practices, it's a very, very different approach to what's called a foreign thought. So I'm not sitting with my mind empty, and when the thought intrudes, I just observe it passively. For me now, that's a choice, right? Once the thought pops into my mind, and I decide to let it stay there, Judaism says, you're not being passive. You're not detached from anything. Now you are deciding to let the thought stay there. So you've decided for it to be there. That's a choice. And if it's a negative thought, now, according to the Tanya, now what have I done? I've expressed the animal soul in thought, and now I'm a Rasha, right? This is something we actually want to compartmentalize and just deal with. So rather than just observing the thought, as soon as I notice it, I don't struggle with it. Obviously, we all know that just strengthens it. But I do redirect my mind to the exact opposite. Because in Jewish meditation, I'm always filling my mind with a divine concept and trying to expand the details of that so it fills the entire mind like wine in a cup that fills it right to the brim, right? And it's not just that it's contemplation versus meditation, right? Because there's more to it than just contemplation. When you look at to go on a tangent, when you look at the Mittler Rebbe and his talk about Bina and the 50 gates of Bina and the 50th gate, and you get to the root of Chokhmah and the source of consciousness, as it were, it's still very transcendental, but it's going on the side where the mind is engaged and full with the divine concept and getting to the root of the divine concept and how that skips up to the source of our Chokhmah to begin with. But we never leave the mind empty. And it's kind of like, if someone were to break into my house, God forbid, do I really care if they broke into my house and they're taking a nap or relaxing, or if they broke into my house and they're having a dance party and they're using my sound system and they're boogieing around? It doesn't matter to me, whatever. They're in my house. They should get out of my house, right? They've broken into my house and they've now crossed a boundary. I don't want them there. And so if I can get them out myself, I get them out. If it's clearly not someone I invited in, if it's a burglar. And if I can't, I call the police and the police get them out, but I get them out. I don't observe them. I don't say, well, as long as they're just taking a nap, that's fine. Right? So that's what this thought is. This thought is like a burglar that's broken into our house. We're trying to focus on saying the Shema. And now I'm going through a grocery list, or I'm going through a concern about something else, right? And so for me to stop and say, well, I'm just going to observe the thought as if that's not my choice. Judaism says, no, now that you're conscious of thought, you have a choice. Direct your mind somewhere else or allow the thought to stay. And now that's you thinking. There's no detachment from the thought. You can't just observe the thought. So just, another my suggestion to anyone who perhaps has a practice they may be deeply attached to of clearing the mind and keeping it clear and observing thoughts. An invitation to explore some of the kabbalistic meditative practices that we've unearthed over the last 50 or so years, and see what benefit there may be there. End of soapbox. Maybe. Carolyn, weren't you? ואם יקשה לו להסירה מדתו מפני שטורדים דתו מאוד בחזקה. If, however, you want to unmute, Carolyn, if you... Would you like to read? Have you got the text yet?
Yeah, I'm sorry. You're talking about me, right? Okay, good. Okay, I apologize. Where are we? I'm following that.
381 in the middle, if, however, he finds it difficult.
Okay, if, however, he finds it difficult to dismiss them because they distract his mind with great intensity.
Right, so now this is an interesting piece of advice that's counterintuitive. So at the end of the chapter, the author says, you know what, if you've ignored it and you redirect your mind again and again, and this today, this thing will just not leave me alone. Normally you'd think, this is work, right? This is me working on myself. This is my focus. I have free will. I just have to work harder, right? I just have to work on myself. It's up to me. But he says, no, actually his advice when it's really intense like this is counterintuitive. You'll see what it is. Azai yashpil nafsho l'Hashem v'yitchanen lo yitbarech b'machashavto norchem alav b'rachamav hamrubim. It's Joey.
Then he should humble his soul before God and supplicate him in his thought, to have compassion upon him in his abundant mercies.
This is a plan.
Yeah. So rather than just saying, well, work harder, right? Now we're saying I should humble myself before God and ask God for compassion. Ask God for compassion. So normally, when do we turn to God? My boat's stuck on dry land and I can't drag it off, and there's no one around, and there's a burning hot sun. I'm like, God, there's nothing I can do. Please help me, right? Or something out of my control, right? Something that I have no power over it. I don't have to humble myself to think, that I can't control the weather and I'm lost and there's a storm coming and please God, let the storm pass, right? Well, I don't control the storm, right? I don't have to humble myself to think, God, please heal this person, right? That's something we turn to God for that. But also to turn for God for that I should be able to serve God properly and focus on my prayers. That is a tricky thing, right? And for that I have to humble myself and say, even when I have free will, even when it's a question of I should be doing this properly, how can I serve God better, right? For that I should turn to God and say, God, please help me here. Help me so that this distracting thought will go and I'll serve you better. And sorry, your face is off the phone here. Who's on the cell phone here? Great, if you'll read. Oh, Siri just heard me.
It's me. It's okay.
Okay, Doreen, sure, let's go with you.
Read the Hebrew, Ken.
Pardon me?
I'll read, but where are you?
Like a father.
כרחמיו אל בנים הנשכים ממוחו וככה ירחם השם על נפשו הנמשכת מאיתו יתברך.
Like a father who takes pity on his children who stem from his brain, and so should God be compassionate on his soul, which derives from the mind of God, the attribute of Chachma, as explained in chapter 2.
Right, so I say, look, my spark of Chokhmah that's trying to express here, that's actually a piece of you. We learned that in chapter 2. So I don't have the strength today to really deal with this. Please help me, get me out of this, because it's your spark that's trapped here. It's your spark that's trapped here. And Paula, are you able to read today? I don't think so. Okay, so let's go back to the top, Cindy. להצילה ממים הזרעונים ולמענו יעשה כי חלק השם ממש עמו.
To rescue it from the turbulent waters, that is, the thoughts which disturb the soul. This he should do for his own sake, since truly his people are a part of the Lord.
Right, so this is you. This is a spark of you brought down here, and I'm trying to let it express. It's getting messed up, so even in my ability to serve you, I can humble myself and say, today I need your help. Today I don't have the resources to do it. And, one last piece on this chapter, although this seems like maybe this applies more to, communities that pray for hours and hours and hours and pray every day. And, they may struggle with this idea of intruding thoughts in a more palpable way, and it may depress them. I think there's a global lesson that we can learn here. and that is the Alter Rebbe is saying, to get back to the beginning, when I'm praying and I have an intervening thought, it doesn't mean that my prayer wasn't of value. And that applies really to our whole lives and all of our choices. Often people say, I don't want to be a hypocrite. Or even worse, look at that person who's a hypocrite, right? I get up in the morning and I pray the Shema and I say I'm one with everybody. And then now I go and I make this choice and that choice, and maybe I snap at this person, or I eat this thing that, you know, this person wouldn't eat, or whatever I do. And I might look at myself and say, well, if I'm not walking the walk, what's the worth of my praying in the morning? You know, obviously it didn't sink in, right? Obviously, if I pray the Shema and then I'm getting angry at people in the day, what's the point? The Shema isn't working. Just, you know, maybe this morning I should just skip it, because why be a hypocrite? The Alter Rebbe says no. He says, when you say the Shema in the morning, or when we learn Tanya right now, that is a mitzvah, that is a value, that is creating all the light we discussed. And the fact that 10 minutes later or 10 hours later I might do the exact opposite of what the Tanya taught or what the Shema says, that does not mean that the Shema was not of value. And here's why. Say I was looking at, say I was in the FBI or had access to, you know, I could search people's computers. I have a friend who actually described to me what happens when someone is under investigation to their computers. It's remarkable, right? So, you know, once you have access, you go in, you look at everything, every social media, every connection. Say I'm looking at someone's computer, and, you know, one part of the day they're donating to charities, they're writing beautiful messages to help the world, they're obviously reaching out and being there for people. They're a beautiful person, right? But other times in the day, they're doing who knows what. They're going, I don't know, whether it's gambling or drugs or yelling at people, or, you know, getting into arguments online, you know, what we call problematic behavior. And I'm looking at this computer, I'm saying, this person, obviously the charity they're donating, it's just a front, you know, maybe they got their name on something, but look at what they're doing behind the scenes, right? They don't really mean it, right? I mean, it's fake. This is just, they don't mean the helpful stuff they're doing, because look at what else they're doing. But then say I realize, oh, wait a minute, there's not just one person using this computer, there's two people using this computer. One of them likes to give to charity and be helpful. The other one gets on and starts getting into all kinds of online nonsense or whatever it might be. Ah, now I get it. So the one person is into charity and is genuine. The other person maybe has some work to do, but it doesn't affect what the first person's doing. Obviously, they're a different person. The same thing applies to our life. I'm not one being, I'm two beings. That's the whole premise of the Tanya. We're a divine soul and an animal soul. And so when I'm praying, that's the divine soul using the device and expressing itself and praying and trying to reach God and be one with God. When I give $1 to tzedakah, that's the divine soul using my hand to give the $1. And it's a value, and it's beautiful, and there's no question. And if 10 minutes or 10 hours later, now suddenly I'm using my mouth to yell at someone, or using my hand to type a nasty comment or whatever, that's the animal soul. It's a different being. And yeah, there's a struggle between the two souls, but the fact that soul A expresses its godly side and then soul B expresses its self-centered side does not mean that one negates the other. And we should be very happy in that sense being quote unquote hypocrites, because we now recognize the work of the divine soul is of value, and then the animal soul is another being, and I'll deal with that in ways that I can, but it has no effect on what the divine soul has done. The divine soul's work is always of value, and I'm dealing with two people here. There's no confusion. Yes, Joey.
One addition is that I think that it makes us understand that God is always in our computer. God always knows what's going on. I mean, we can't hide.
Yes. Okay. Obviously, yeah. As you know, so God is. We have a sense. We understand that God is aware of everything. Is kind of checking not just our screen, but also deep into our hard drives, where we're not aware of what's going on. Whatever viruses or bugs are in there, and God's aware of the whole struggle. And ultimately, in our relationship with God, this is all. There's nothing hidden. Yeah. So that gets us to chapter 29. Any thoughts?
I don't think, and I don't have it. Did Maya send chapter 29?
Maya, I think I saw that it was sent out.
Yeah. I have
Okay.
a question. I guess after the discussions, is there any positive
I did
side?
not get it.
Raise your hand if you don't have chapter 29 by email. Oh. Maya,
I don't have it either.
Okay, well, we don't have that much time. Let me do an introduction. And Maya, let's send that out again, and we'll get that to everybody.
I got mine.
Yeah, we'll send it now. I don't know why.
Yeah, I thought I saw it. It may pop up on your screen.
Well, this morning she sent 27 and 28 again, but I didn't get 29.
Oh.
I thought she said 28 and 29.
Well, maybe
It's 27, 28. I didn't look well.
Okay.
Right.
Oh, so Maya will want 29. We don't need it right now if you don't have it. Let's please sometime in the week. But that's okay. I can give a little. It does need a little bit of an intro, and if we get in, I'll read the English.
Cantor?
Yes.
Could I ask a question? I guess after our discussions, is there any benefit to this animal side? Like, is it self-preservation, or like what does it do for us that we want to keep it?
Yeah, good question. The benefit of the animal soul is it is tremendous energy, and it is tremendous emotional energy, because the divine soul is more intellectually focused. Its nature is intellectual. So if I were only my divine soul, if I crushed my animal soul so that it was just dormant and wasn't active at all, which is not our approach, then I would be free to sit and meditate on godliness and think about all the wonderful things I wanted to do, but I'd never actually leave that stance. I'd never get up and do something, because I would never have the emotional drive to get out of my chair. So we actually need the energy and the emotional warmth of the animal soul to actually get ourselves to the destination, where the divine soul is the compass bearing, the animal soul is the stallion that we ride on to really get across the field and charge towards our objective. So in our approach, we don't try to destroy or disconnect the animal soul. We tame it and try to have it follow the compass bearing of the divine soul, because that's where our energy comes from.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Good question. So these next two chapters, 29 and 30, let me just, as an introduction, I'll say they are something of a bitter pill. They are something of it's a little tough parenting, if you like. And so I'm not necessarily going to go through the whole chapter inside. We may jump around a little on these next two chapters. I think that we'll get the gist of it pretty quickly, and I think we'll get the benefit of it without necessarily going through the whole thing. But the rule is that I'm using my long short path, I'm using my chabad, my intellect, to generate emotions. Right? So that's the rule. So if I find, now that I've dealt with all of the issues around depression that might arise, that I'm still just, here I am and I'm not excited, what do? I should sit and I should meditate on a godly concept, or pray or learn and generate those emotions. But even if I take 5 minutes to sit and I think, wow, there's this one being that fills the whole world, that is, my consciousness is a spark of that one being, and this world is a gift to connect with that one being. Like, I'm already feeling kind of ready to go, right? Sit for 5 minutes and focus on that, or any of the divine concepts that we have introduced, and really calmly let your breath open up and let that fill your mind. Then you'll generate emotions, right? That's the technique. So we turn to that first. But if I've dealt with all the issues of depression, I'm not depressed or anything. I'm good. I'm normal. I'm neutral. And I'm sitting and I'm actually doing that. I've done a meditation practice where I do focus on a godly concept, and still I'm not feeling anything. Why? Because of the problem called Timtum Halev. Timtum Halev, which means your heart is plugged up, right? It's just a stopped up heart. It's stuffed with rags. I don't know what's in there, right? But it's just, it's full and it's not opening up. That's when we turn to chapters 29 and 30. And here it's a temporary approach of some meditations to use specifically for that issue, right? So it's not that, well, I'm not excited, but I haven't sat and used the long short path, right? And now I should do this technique. It really is for someone who has taken this on as a practice, is in a healthy emotional place. They're not depressed, and they still haven't gotten excitement, right? They're saying their prayers, but I'm just saying my prayers because I have to, because I'm Jewish. In that context, not because I'm excited to do it. I'm not feeling love and awe like the long short path should generate. And the Hasidus and Kabbalah, as Hasidus explains it, tends to be, there's three approaches, right? There's Chakira, philosophy, which tries to elevate the soul and the intellectual capacity of the soul. There's Musar, which, to simplify, tends to break the body. And although it's not how we teach Musar here at Temple, traditional Musar had practices of fasting and rolling in the snow, and the idea was to lower the attachment to the physical body. Hasidus, in general, tends to try and integrate the soul and body so they function as a pair. Right? That's very, very simplified. But in that sense, these two chapters are considered the Musar of the Tanya, because it's really like it's the Alter Rebbe lays it pretty heavy, and the point is that if the problem is that I have Timtum Halev, and it's not something that's depressing me, and I am doing the meditations and it's not opening up, it's because there's too much of an attachment to the physical side of my consciousness. I'm just too identified with myself, not in a nasty ego way, but just in a simple, look, I eat, I sleep, right? That I do, and I like doing it, but learning, praying, meditating, that I have to force myself, and it doesn't get me excited, just because the self-centered aspect of my body is just too coarse, and it's in the way. And if this divine soul, which is on fire and really living, so to speak, in the heights of the spiritual worlds, and it's sending all this light and this fire down, and my physical body is just this asbestos firewall, and it's just not getting through because it's just too thick. I haven't worked it. So that's why it's just my heart is plugged up and the emotions won't flow, even though the divine soul is sending the light down. I'm focusing, my intellect is really going into it, but it's not producing a result the way we have described. So in that case, we turn to these chapters, and let's see what the advice is. It's not fun and games, right? Those whose souls are on the level of Beinonim must seek means of contending with yet another difficulty. Right? This is not for tzaddikim, right? It's for those who struggle. And it's not necessarily even for a Rasha who just has to work on, controlling their thought, speech, and action and becoming a Beinoni. But once you're a Beinoni, there's another problem you might encounter. Asher lifamim v'itim rabim yesh lehem timtum halev shenaseh ka'evan v'lo yachol liftoach libo b'shum ofen la'avoda shebalev zot tefillah. So sometimes, or maybe even often, they experience a dullness of the heart, timtum halev, as though it had turned to stone, and try as they might, they cannot open their heart in prayer, which is the service of the heart, right? Which is avoda. So this whole system is designed so that when I'm at temple or I'm in our virtual services and I'm saying the Shema, I'm filled with a love for God and with a certain awe that I want to behave in a certain way and use this gift properly, and that gives my mitzvahs wings to elevate, and it allows me to do all this spiritual work. We've learned that system. If my heart is like a stone, I'm not depressed, I'm not sad, nothing's bothering me, but am I excited about praying? No. I'm excited about coming to help with the food pantry? No. I'm just neutral. There's nothing there, right? And I'm meditating, like a Beinoni has a practice where they meditate. Still, nothing. So clearly, my prayers could do better, right? If you look at it like a machine, they're kind of marbles rolling down here in Asiya, not even getting up to the 10 Sfirot of Asiya, let alone, as we've learned, getting to higher spiritual worlds and really bringing light into the world. V'gam lifamim lo yuchal lehilachem im hayetzer lekadesh atzmo b'mutar lo mipnei kvedut shebelibo. Also, the heaviness in his heart prevents him at times from waging war against the evil impulse and sanctifying himself in permitted matters. That's it. He's raised two issues. First one was, I'm not going to pray with my love and my awe that I'm supposed to generate. And two is, all this technique we learned of iskafia, right? That Aramaic word iskafia, of when I just stop myself from doing something neutral, something permitted, right? I'm sitting and there's a nice pizza in front of me, and it hasn't got that pepperoni on it. And you know, here I am. I can say a blessing and eat it, you know, depending on my level of practice. And it's fine. It's all good. But I stop. I say, you know what? It's my ego that wants to eat this. I'm going to take 2 minutes, read some Torah, and we learn the tremendous spiritual work that is, right? And now I eat it for the sake of something greater than myself. That's also going to suffer, right? I'm not going to wage war when it comes to that neutral stuff. That's the second piece that will suffer. And why is that? If the problem isn't that, you know, I'm really attached to problematic behavior, right? Where now I'm a Russia and I've got to deal with it. If the problem isn't that I'm depressed and I'm just, you know, I'm turning to whatever, the problem is just, I'm not into it, right? There's no sin. It's not a sin to be not into it today, right? What's going to suffer? It's not going to be my red lines, right? If I have a practice where I don't, you know, I give tzedakah every day. I always give $1 every morning. I do it. It's a rule. I'm never going to stop. So today I'm not into it. I'm still going to give the $1, right? That's not going to suffer. But when I say the Shema, am I going to say it with real passion? Or am I just going to say it? I'm not going to not say it if I have a practice. I'll still do it if Timtum Alev is the issue. So my red line will stay intact. But the way that I say it, that's what's going to suffer. You get what I mean? And same thing with what do you call that practice of using the neutral stuff in our life also to elevate the world. Okay, so I'm allowed to eat this. I'm allowed to say this. I'm allowed to do this. But am I really going to stop and say, okay, let's make sure I'm doing this, you know, from the divine soul's perspective? No. Yeah, you know, I need the pizza. You know, I got it. There's stuff, things I need to do, and boom, I eat it. Right. So it's that gray area that will suffer, rather than the red lines. Any questions so far? Let's do a little bit more. Let's get us into this. So here he brings up in the Zohar, they describe that there is a yeshiva, just like every town had a yeshiva. Also, heaven, Gan Eden, has a yeshiva, very lofty yeshiva. And like every yeshiva, it has a Rosh Yeshiva, a head of yeshiva. And the Zohar, one of our greatest mystical texts, perhaps, says that the Rosh Yeshiva taught this. This is what the Rosh Yeshiva says to do about a log that won't catch fire. V'zoti etzah hayutza bazohar hakadosh de'amar rav metivta b'gan eden ad la salik beh nehora mevatshin lechulu gufa de la salik beh nehora denishmata mevatshin lechulu. So this is really gets to it. In this case, the advice given in the Holy Zohar is, as the president of the Academy of Gan Eden said, a wooden beam which does not catch fire should be splintered. Similarly, a body into which the light of the soul does not penetrate should be crushed, and thereby the body becomes receptive to the soul's light. So that's the approach the next two chapters take, which is, okay, you're practicing the long short path. You've taken care of anything that's making you the opposite of joyful. You're meditating, so you're doing some kind of practice where you're focusing and learning to go deeper with your Bina aspect, your understanding aspect, into some divine concept. And then you open up a prayer book and pray, and you could care less, right? And you're just doing it because you said you do it, you meant to do it, it's your juice, you do it, whatever it is, but there's no fire. So here, we're that log, we're this big log, and the head of the academy in heaven says, Smolash, that log's just too thick. It's not going to catch fire. I see the divine soul sending all this fire down, and He's even focusing his mind, and his emotions are just too dense and too coarse. He's had one too many blints, right? He's had one too many vacation, and he just now he's so attached to that physical side of his consciousness that the firewall's not letting it through, right? So you got to take this log that's not catching, right? This physical body and this animal soul, and you got to splinter it. And when you splinter into smaller splinters, now the fire gets in and it dries up and it catches, and you find the emotions are also engaged.
I have a question.
Yes.
Okay. Why wouldn't one of the recommendations be to include, like, for example, working at the Temple Israel food pantry, or working with the Temple Israel Caring Compassion and calling people during the pandemic? It's the solutions we just talked about seem so self-centered, right? And it seems like the cure to getting out of the blahs is partly to see what's happening with people around you and to develop more compassion for them.
Yeah. So what you're saying is true in the context that we want to keep doing these things, and this is a person who is doing these things.
Mm-hmm.
So this is a person who is other-centered in their thought, speech, and action, right? So they are going to the food pantry. They are participating in the care community. They are giving charity. They are, coming and praying with our community. They are doing all those things,
Mm-hmm.
and you'd think they'd get excited about helping another person. You'd think they get excited about seeing, I'm feeding a family, and this is what I meant to do. You'd think they would, they just aren't, right? So you're right. You're talking about the first technique of just be abandoned, right? Just go do it,
Mm-hmm.
right? So that was chapter 1, where and 1, 2, and 3, where the Alter Rebbe says, first of all, just start behaving this way and get your outsides, even if your insides don't match it, get your outsides to 100%.
Mm-hmm.
And that means actually doing those things. And normally that causes excitement. So that's step 1.
Mm-hmm.
Here I'm looking at somebody that's done step 1. They're doing everything you're describing. They've done step 2, which is focusing their mind to really try and create emotion, so they are excited. They've done step 3, which is, okay, am I depressed about something? Is that why? If so, let me take care of it. And now they're here, and they're thinking, speaking, and doing other-centered things like you're describing. But my heart stopped up. I come and I'm at the food pantry, but I'm not excited about feeding the hungry. Right? What's that about?
Mm-hmm.
Right? Should I be depressed that I'm that kind of person? What's the problem? So it's a very narrow window we're talking about, where yes, your observation is 100% true, and that was the first step. But if I'm not excited about it, what's the problem?
Yeah.
And we'll get into what splintering the log looks like next week. Let's do a short meditation to finish, so we're perhaps creating some emotions for our week. So just find yourself in a comfortable position.
Mm-hmm.
And let your breathing open up. When we breathe smoothly, our soul flows smoothly. So find the 4 stages of breath. Breathing in for count 4. And the breath stays in for 4. Breath goes back out for 4. And stays out for 4. Follow my count. In for 1, 2, 3, 4. Hold there. 2, 3, 4. Back out. 2, 3, 4. Hold there. 2, 3, 4. Continue that pattern on your own. Be aware that Western science has shown that just doing this is already boosting my immune system, causing all kinds of neurological changes and physical changes that are all beneficial. We'll add to that our wisdom gateway, open up the space between the in-breath and the out-breath as our wisdom gateway. Let's introduce to that wisdom gateway the Alter Rebbe taught us in the last chapter. I'm two beings, and so everything my divine soul does is of permanent good, unchangeable good, and creates a light in the spiritual worlds that is hard to quantify or qualify. That nothing else that I do in the day gets in the way of that. I'm two beings, and that divine soul, when it does its thing, it's pure, and it stands on its own. Let that fill your mind. If you're on YouTube, feel free to pause and stay here for as long as feels appropriate. But if you're here, open your eyes. Wonderful, good learning with you guys. We'll get through the beginning of 29, and then we'll skip through a little because I won't lie to you, it's a little intense. But I hope everybody has a wonderful, wonderful week. Stays healthy, stays happy, stays engaged. There's lots to do at Temple Israel, lots of ways to help. So please join us for all of our virtual activities, and it's been a pleasure.